Amaze Yourself. Here we make business growth easier. I share strategies and insights to help you increase your revenue, get more clients, and set up your operation to scale. Plus, you'll hear from industry experts who review how they scaled their business. So get ready to work smart, earn more, and live better. And Jim, very welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Can you please introduce yourself to those who are listening and watching?
Sure. I rescue business owners who are working with the wrong attorney. My name is Jim Ries, and I am Director of Business Development at Offit Kerman. I am not a lawyer, but I will connect you and your clients to the right attorney at our law firm. And
I
that's
love,
what I do.
I love that. So let's talk a bit about that side of your business, how you connect the right people, but also let's talk a lot about business development. But before we go anywhere, talk to me about the hat.
Oh, the hat. Well, about 5 years ago, when COVID started, almost exactly 5 years ago, it was early March 2020. I was scheduled to be on my first Zoom call. So I like to have fun. So I didn't know what to expect on a Zoom call. I'd never been a part of one. So I grabbed this hat out of the bin next to my desk and I put it on and I thought to myself, I'm going to have fun with this. I really don't know what to expect. I have worn this hat on every Zoom or Teams call ever since then. This is what I look like without the hat, and this is what the hat looks like when it's not on my head. So the thing about the hat is, as you just alluded to, the hat is a great icebreaker. So
Yes.
when I get on a Zoom call, if people have never seen me, they say, "All right, what's with the hat? Are you a hunter? Were you in the military? Is that your real hair?" And it's a great icebreaker, and it gets people very casual and very loose to have a Zoom call. There are some people that wait till the end of my meetings and say, "Jim, tell me about the hat." And then there's some people that never say anything about the hat, but they look at me funny.
I love that. It's almost like your personal brand statement, isn't it?
It really is. It's a great example of accidental and free branding because I just happened to put it on 5 years ago, and when I go out and I don't take this hat, the hat does not leave the house. So when I go out to a networking event, which I do quite often, people say, "God, I didn't recognize you without your hat," or "Where is your hat?" So it is a great topic of conversation.
I love it. Yeah. And it makes you stand out. People will always see you with the hat and remember you as the guy with the hat as well.
Correct. The guy with the hat, right?
Yeah. I love that. So you said you help your safe basically business owners and you help them to find the right attorney. Tell us a great story, a success story about how you helped a business owner link with the right attorney or the lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, I have a great story, a lot of success stories, but one in particular because it was pretty recent. Our law firm is what we call a full service law firm. So we have over 30 practice areas and over 300 attorneys. So about a year ago, a business colleague of mine asked me if we had an employment attorney who could help his company with an employment issue with one of their employees. And of course, I said, yes, we do. And I made the introduction for him to the employment attorney. And we did a very small matter for them. And we took care of it. We did it quickly and at the right cost. And the client was very happy. A few months later, they decided they were going to sell their company. So that was a much more intense matter. It took a much longer time and had was an a costly exercise to go through to sell their business. So that's a good success story. It shows how a very small matter could lead to something big.
Yeah, I love that. It's called the salami technique, isn't it? Getting a foot in the door, and then when it really works and they're happy, you you move on to what else you can do.
Well, I've never heard of the salami technique, if that's what you called it, but I call it the Trojan horse. So another part of history that we're all familiar with. The
Yes.
Trojan horse is you get in with something small and then one day something big happens.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
look, it's more about how can we serve the clients and how can we solve their problems. That's really what it's all about. And it oftentimes it starts with something small and may end up with something big. Typically with our clients, something big is something like selling their business or buying another business. That's a
Yeah.
pretty big step for them.
Yeah. And of course, the one thing we're not touching upon, but it all comes with service delivery as well. It's one thing to start with a small thing and you connecting the right people to the right attorney. But the next thing is if that attorney isn't really doing their job well or is very unfriendly, there's no repeat business. So it's the first setup and then it's the delivery. And then do they then keep in contact or is it just you make such an impression that people will come back to you?
I'm so glad you mentioned that because it is about the delivery. So, what I do is when people send me a referral, I meet with their client first. We have a one-to-one meeting and I find out about their business and about their legal issues. And then, based on a lot of the information they've shared with me, I will connect them to the right attorney at our law firm. And I will attend that next meeting, which is typically me and the attorney and the client. And at that meeting, the first thing I say is that I am here as an advocate for the client to make sure they ask all the right questions and to make sure that the attorney gives them thorough answers. So it's very transparent. I tell everybody there that, we're going to talk about everything having to do with the business and the legal issues.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, no one asks or no one volunteers information about cost. So towards the end of the meeting, I usually say, okay, and I'd ask the attorney, please tell the client what this might cost them, depending on several different variables. So it's very transparent. It's a very natural conversation to have. I make sure that the attorneys that I work with, um, I make sure that they are also interested in the client, in what they do personally, in
Mhm.
their professional life, in their business. Um, I like to work with the attorneys that show some empathy for
Sure.
whatever the business owner is going through.
Mhm.
Um, these are not robots. These are people who are genuinely interested in the client, and that's important.
Yeah. And I love that you say that you are like an advocate for the potential client, right? And that you also discuss the fees involved. Because what I see, and especially interestingly enough, sometimes when the projects are rather large, then in your case, the lawyer already knows like, okay, this is a big deal. So it's going to take me a lot of hours. So the price is substantial. Even though it's worth it, that's not the discussion here, right? But in my experience, when some of my clients are facing situations like that, even though their mind goes already like, this is going to cost them um, a larger amount, they shy away from talking about the money because there's many reasons, but very often it's like, well, maybe it's not the right thing, or maybe they don't like it, and with that, they don't say it. Then a proposal is sent, and then the potential client goes like, "Oh, this is not what I expected." And by raising it during the meeting, you can deal with any objections to price or because what happens if a client goes like, "Oh my word, this is not what I had in mind." What happens then?
Yeah, I mean, it usually goes south. So, we bring it up in that first meeting.
Yes.
We also describe to the client how we use what we call a blended rate, which is they may be working primarily with a principal attorney partner, but there also might be work there that an associate can do or a paralegal could do at a lower rate. So I call that that's what I call a blended rate. So we make sure we talk about all of that up front so it's comfortable for the client because it seems like no one wants to talk about it or bring it up in discussion, but it's very important.
Yeah, I hear you. Right. So this was where there was a great match, right? They came in with a smaller question. It ended up with a lot of work for the business. Um, because you are almost like a brokerage of lawyers,
Hmm.
you must also have a horrible story we as business owners all need to keep in the back of our minds to not let that happen to us. Tell us some story or share an experience where someone was either too late with hiring an attorney or had the wrong attorney, because that must happen as well.
It does happen. So I've talked to business owners who have, um, when they start out as a young business, they are penny wise and dollar foolish
Yes.
oftentimes.
Yes.
And I sort of joke they hire maybe a family member who is, let's say, in a trust and estates attorney, and they hire them to draw up a, a contract, a partnership agreement, for example.
Yes.
And it's really it's not a good match for them. And years later, um, when they go to break up the partnership, because one of the partners wants to get out, for example, they
Mhm.
find out that the document was written so poorly that it's not as easy to do as they thought it was. So it ends up costing them more, just like everything else in life. If you're penny wise, dollar foolish. So they, they're tight for money at the beginning. They try to do it on a short budget, and it ends up costing them more later on. So yeah, I see this often. I also see it with estate planning.
Mhm.
So young families, maybe they have their first baby and they say, we should have a will, and they find a friend who has done a couple of these, and they do the will, and years later, when their children are older or getting married, they think, oh, well, let's revise the will. And when our attorneys look at the existing will, there's really nothing to use in that document, so they have to start over.
Oh wow. Yeah, I hear you. And another part of what you do, and what we titled this episode, right? Your network is your net worth. And I know you love networking. So talk to us about networking, because again, in my community, a lot of people don't really know how to use their network and really convert it into clients. So tell us in general, first of all, what do you do that makes you the king of networking?
Well, first of all, if you don't mind, there are lots of, I'm not going to repeat them. There are lots of numbers and percentages out there that prove that your network is your net worth.
Yes.
Lots of numbers out there. I also would like to say that I I consider networking very similar to growing a vegetable garden. So you plant seeds, you water the seeds and take care of the soil, and then you harvest the plant,
Right.
and it brings food to your table. So networking is the same thing. You plant your seeds by starting to build some relationships. You make some connections, you build relationships. Um, you continue to water or feed those relationships by staying in touch with people, adding value to the relationship that you have, and then you harvest those relationships. And that happens when your contacts call you because they need an attorney, then you've got the time to harvest.
Yes.
So networking is a very important part of what I do at Offit Kerman. Um, I go to networking events multiple times a week, and I try to go to the events where the people I want to get in front of are going to be there. And
Sure.
that's look, we have limited time. All of us, we only have 24 hours in a day. We don't want to go to a networking event and come home and realize we wasted our time, because
Yeah.
it's a lot of effort. You got to get dressed nicely, drive to the event, socialize with people, drive home. It's exhausting. So I make sure that the events I'm going to have the kinds of people that I want to meet are going to be there. And those kinds of people are in two different categories. They're either business owners who buy legal services. It's
Mm-hmm.
usually the CEO, president, owner, or founder. That's the person that buys legal services
Yeah.
for these small businesses. Or it's a center of influence, or COI as we call them. And I want to be, those are the two groups of people I want to be around. So I'm very, very picky about where I go.
So talk to me about center of influence, because I understand what it is, but someone watching may not have heard of it before or need to refresher. What's a center of influence?
A center of influence for me are professional service providers who are selling their services to the CEO, president, owner, or founder of a business. So
Right.
that would be someone like a commercial banker. That would be someone like a CPA.
Mhm.
It could be a marketing company. um, People like that who, again, are providing professional services. Very often it's a fractional CFO. So a
Mhm.
fractional CFO is a part-time CFO who is hired, not to be a part of the company, but hired to come in and maybe give 5 or 10 hours a week to a company, 20 hours a week.
Mhm.
So outsourced or fractional CFO. It could be an HR advisor or consultant
Mhm.
who is hired by a business owner to help on the HR side of the business. Those are the kinds of people that are good COIs. Could be an outsourced sales consultant. Maybe it's a sales manager, outsourced sales manager, or sales consultant. Those are also very good COIs for me.
Yeah, so basically, you're looking for someone who services the same audience as you do. And the funny thing is, it's often easier to get in front of a center of influence because they feel like, oh, okay, I understand what you're doing. And then when you have the right connection there and you maintain the connection and you really, make it a solid connection, then it's a great source of referrals, because they are working with the same people. They actually see value in being connected with you, because when their clients ask for, in your instance, a lawyer, they have someone to refer to them.
Exactly, and it works the other way also.
Yes.
So, with my vast network and the number of business owners that I speak to every day, I need resources, and I need to be able to connect that business owner with an HR consultant or a fractional CFO or a banker or a CPA.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I really loved it, and I notice it almost daily, that really in that sentence, for me, my network is my net worth. Because when I work with business owners and they're growing their business and they're scaling it, they need services, right? Like you're saying, they need a CPA, they need to know someone who's looking after their finances. They very often want to hire more people. And then the first one they look at when we're going through a program together is like, can you help me? Who do I need to go to? And the funny thing is, and I'm wondering whether you've experienced that as well, Jim, if I then refer them to someone who is actually not great at their job, it reflects bad on me.
100%. Yep.
So it's really, for me, I'm not just networking, but I'm also vetting the potential people that I'm referring my clients to, because if I have doubts whether or not they are really going to service my clients well, it reflects bad on me and it can harm my business.
Exactly. And on the plus side, if you refer me to one of your clients and I do a great job, it makes you look good.
For
So that's the flip side. You
yeah,
want to make sure that you are referring people who are going to make you look good. And look, sometimes we make a mistake and we refer the wrong person. As long as that only happens once with that person, that's fine. You don't go back to the well, right?
yes,
You
yes.
find people who are going to take care of your clients and make you look good.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you. So you said something fascinating to me. I think a lot of people that are watching need some help with. You said, I am very peculiar about the networking or gatherings that I'm attending, right? They need to have the right either direct clients for me, or they need to have the centers of influence. How do you make sure that you're in the right networking environment? Because again, this is something I see happening again and again. People go to environments where they don't find the right people at all. So how can you ensure that when I'm subscribing or joining a network organization, it is my kind of network?
Great question. I'll give you several examples. One that just happened this morning. So a friend of mine is having an event tomorrow night,
Mm-hmm.
and this morning he unsolicited, he sent me the registration list for who's attending the event tomorrow night. So I already know who's going to be there. And there's some people there that I don't know, and I'll do some homework on LinkedIn and see what they're all about and make sure that I meet them.
Mm.
So one way to find out is to ask the event organizers, will you share the registration list with me? And
Right.
if they say no, then you can say, look, can you just send me the names? I don't want their emails. I'm not going to spam them and send them all emails. I just want to see what kinds of people or their company name, something that you can share with me. You'd be surprised how often people would say, sure, I can do that. That's one way.
Mm-hmm.
Another way would be to get to the event early. And most of these events have name tags on a table.
Yes.
Get there early, look at the name tags. And if there are people on those name tags that you want to meet, go to the event organizers and say, hey, would you mind introducing me to these two people if they come tonight? I see they have name tags here. If they come here, would you introduce me to them? I've been trying to meet them.
I love
So
that.
there are ways around it. Those are two examples, and there's others, I'm sure.
I love that. I really love the question for being introduced, because that is quite often, and I want to touch upon that as well, but that is quite often the thing, right? Oh, I know someone, but then how do I, do I just walk up to them and say, hey, I wanted to meet you? It's like a bit, very
Yeah.
direct. And always an introduction is really nice, especially because we all know what we're there for on a networking event, to network, to chat with each other. But I really love the networking. So one of my clients called me the other day, and they were really sweating because of a networking event. And it's like, how do I go about it? I always think up front it's a great idea, but then when it's there, it's so many people. What are your most valuable tips to enter a networking event where there's loads of people and you don't know anyone?
Really good point. Number one, we've all heard this expression before, and that is failing to plan is planning to fail. So you
Right.
have to plan. I would suggest that when you are getting ready to go to a networking event,
Mhm.
you should plan on connecting with three people at that event. Not 30, but having three good conversations, just three, walk away with three business cards that you can follow up with. So that sets some expectations.
Right.
Um, if you are an introvert, you can go with a buddy and actually have a buddy system so
Okay.
that you feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
And so make sure you know where the event is, the parking, because again, as I mentioned earlier, I would get there early and I would look at that table of name tags and see there are people on there you want to meet and ask the event organizer, can you introduce me to these couple of people? So
Yeah.
that's what you can do to prepare for the event. Now, when you're at the event, again, there's some do's and don'ts. Can I mention a couple do's and don'ts?
Yes.
Okay. So you do your homework. You make sure when you're having conversations with people, and again, your expectations are like three people. So
Mhm.
one of the do's is to be interested, not interesting. Okay. If you're interested,
Like
you're
that.
curious, you're asking all the questions. If
Yes.
you're interesting, you're doing all the talking.
Yes.
I'd rather be the person asking all the questions, and good questions, not what do you think about the weather, or talk about your favorite sports teams. There are
Mhm.
other questions you can ask, including, hey, what brings you here today? Who invited you, or how did you hear about this event? There are simple icebreakers like that.
Yes.
It's good to ask people some personal questions. There's something called the Ford method, FORD.
Mhm.
And F stands for family. So you can
Mhm.
ask people about their family. O stands for occupation,
Mhm.
where you might ask them about their work. R stands for recreation. So I like to ask people, hey, what do you like to do when you're not working? And D asks for dreams or goals.
Mm.
So if it's a business owner, you might ask, how's the first couple of months going so far in 2025? What do the next 6 months look like? Do you have any major goals for 2025? Anything crazy going on? So the Ford method is very helpful, and just be yourself.
Mm.
You cannot try to be someone else. I think I can't remember who said, "Be yourself," because everyone else is taken. But
Oscar
be
Wilde.
authentic. Don't try to be what you're not. Be authentic.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very important. And as you're asking questions to the people you meet, think about, how can I bring value to this person?
Mm.
Think about, how can you give, 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 not with any expectation of getting anything in return. Just give. So maybe someone's talking about their dog, and they need a new place to board their dog when they go on vacation. Maybe you know a place where they can take their dog to stay while they go away. Those are little things that you can do to really start building a nice relationship. Now, let me tell you a couple things you should not do at network
Yes.
events.
Yes.
You should not drink too much. It
Oh,
sounds obvious, but you should not drink too much,
does
because
it still happen?
yeah, it does happen. Um, you should not be there's several types of people that I characterize that go to networking events. One is a snacker. A snacker is somebody who goes to these events just for the food.
Oh no.
Yep, there's one called the ghoster. A ghoster is someone who goes to networking events, they collect business cards, and they never follow up. Don't be a ghoster. And
All
the third is a dealer. A dealer is someone who goes to these events with a stack of business cards and just deals them out to people before people even ask them for a card. So
yes.
don't be one of those people. Um, don't drink too much. Um, and just, and don't do all the talking. Do
Yeah.
more listening than talking,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Be a good listener. Ask good questions.
Yeah. I love that. And when you already said when you're an introvert, bring a buddy, I had to think about Simon Sinek, who said, when I go to a networking event, and that's why it came up because you said don't be a snacker.
Mhm.
Um, I just go for the cheese. He's like, I'm a very introvert person, so I take someone who's very extroverted, and all I do is eat cheese. And then when my friend, the extroverted person, brings someone over to have conversation with, I stop eating the cheese and I have the conversation.
Perfect.
And I had to laugh when you said, bring a buddy, and then some people only go for the snacks. But it is very true. And when you painted that picture about the dealers, right, the business card pushers, I had this instant image. And I think it's part also to do with the person who's organizing the event, because there's also a bit, I've been to events where this was more the norm. Okay, so who are you, this is my card, I don't really care, I have a card, so I go on.
Mhm.
Whereas in my experience, nothing comes from that, because they don't remember you, you don't have a true connection, you don't seem interested at all, and whatever, I know 10 other people, besides you who do this, so I will go to someone else. Talking about business cards, these days a lot of people use electronic business cards and not so much paper, like paperless, not paper. What's your take on that?
I'm not a big fan of electronic business cards for several reasons. One is when you download the information and it goes right into your contacts, you still have to make a note that you met this person and you want to follow up with them. I also really love physical business cards because if I meet you and you tell me that your 13-year-old daughter is a dancer, and I see an interesting article in the next day or week or month about a young teenage dancer, so I may make that note on your card that, for young teenage dancer, and I will remember that. And when I see something, I may send it to you that's relevant to when we first met. So I do think that there's advantages to having that physical card, um, writing notes on there, getting back home. I think it's really important to add people to your contacts right away. I think it's really important to connect with people on LinkedIn right away with a personal message when you connect.
Yes.
Hey, great to see you at the event. Let's connect here on LinkedIn. Um, Good having that physical card if you want to follow up in a week and say, we met at that event a week ago. Love to grab coffee sometime or schedule a Zoom call or something. So I do like the physical cards a lot.
I hear you. And you touch on something very important, Jim. You touch upon the following up. And I think that may be one of the toughest things. Not so much like you're saying, immediately thereafter, you go for a personal one on one conversation, whether it's in person or on Zoom. You connect with them on LinkedIn, you put them in your database, so you actually have, the details there as well. And then what? Because I think this is where a lot of people go wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to me about the continuous follow-ups and how do you keep your network alive instead of just, hey, I met you, great, let's have coffee, and then whatever, I never hear of you again.
What you say is so true. We do a lot of work. We have a great database and we have it in our contacts and in our CRM, and we go to events and we pay to go to the event. We take time to go to the events. We come back with business cards and we don't follow up. And that is a complete waste of time.
Mm.
So good follow up is essential. And I suggest, as I already mentioned, follow up via email, connect via LinkedIn, ask for a coffee meeting or a Zoom meeting, um, add them, ask them, can I add you to my mailing list to receive my newsletter? So I have a monthly newsletter. My contacts will at least see my name come through once a month. I also sponsor events and I'm active in events. I do them quite frequently with other partners. And
Mm.
so my contacts are getting invited to really good events. Most of them, there's no cost, and most of them, they're able to meet other good business owners and COIs. So they're seeing my name via, these invitations, emailed invitations, almost on a weekly basis. And then I'm also very active on LinkedIn, and that and the networking and the newsletter and the invitations really keeps me top of mind. So dripping on people is very, very important because it takes maybe, I don't know, 9 to 12 times for someone to see your name before it's really cemented in their brain. And they remember, oh, Jim Ries, the legal BD guy.
Yes.
So it's that repetitive. Get my newsletter, get event invitations, see me on LinkedIn, see me at in-person events, see me on virtual Zoom events. It's all about being top of mind, and it's not easy to do. You just have to be very consistent at it. You have to have a plan, and a good strategy to stay top of mind.
I like that. And you talk about something very important. You're saying, you know, I get them on my newsletter, I get them on LinkedIn, and I keep circulating, which you're right, you know, it used to be 7 times before sales came to fruition. Now it's way more because we all have like, you know, attention of 7
Yeah.
seconds and then you're done already.
Right.
Right? It's even worse than a goldfish. And I love your approach that you organize events. Talk to me a bit more about that because I know those are amazing. So I want to hear more about how that comes and how it happens.
Right. So we talked about going to networking events and how you need to prepare, make sure you go to the right events that have the right people. The
Yes.
best way to go to the right event with the right people is to be a partner at the event and invite your people that you want to meet to the event. So in my case, I may do the event with a financial advisor or a banker, commercial banker,
Mhm.
or a CPA firm or someone like that.
Yeah.
Um, they will invite their clients and prospects. I will invite my clients and prospects. So we all meet each other's clients and prospects, mostly C-level, CEO, president, owner, founder. Those are the people we want to meet. Um, we know who's going to come to those events. It's going to be the people we want to get in front of.
Yes.
So we take away the mystery of, oh, I wonder who's going to be there. We already know it's going to be the people that me and my partners with the event invited. And we're going to see the registration. I just got one this morning about an hour ago for an event that we're having in April, a nonprofit event, and I just saw the registration list. So I know before I walk into that event exactly who's going to be there. That's a tremendous advantage.
Mm.
So I tell people all the time, if you want to go to an event that has the right people there, then be a partner on your own event. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to have meaning, has to have some networking, maybe a little educational piece to it, and make it easy for people to get to.
Yeah. But how do you make sure, because especially you're talking about C-suite, right? And there's a lot of people in meeting with C-suite people. So how do you ensure that they attend the events and not go like, I'm too busy, I can't make it?
Well, that's the relevant and meaningful part. There's two kinds of events. There's events that you could have. You could have a gratitude happy hour and
Right?
just invite the C-level people to a happy hour open bar, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.,
Mhm.
something like that,
Yeah.
where there's no program, there's no one's talk, no one's making a speech or presentation. It's just very low key, very casual happy hour. That's one kind of event.
Yeah.
The other kind of event is to have some kind of relevant topic that's going to draw the business owners. Right now, the most relevant topic for our firm is mergers and acquisitions.
Mhm.
So lots of baby boomers who own businesses are thinking about the next 3 to 5 years getting out of their business. Are they going to sell the business? Does the business get handed over to the next generation? And they're trying to figure it out because this is something they do once in their lifetime. So they
Yes.
don't know a lot about it. So that's been a really successful topic that we've done at our firm with
Mhm.
other professional service providers as partners. Great, great topics. Great topics. What do I do with my business? Do I grow my business and then sell it? Do I sell it now? Do I see if one of my kids is interested? Is there someone who works in the business who maybe is interested in buying it? Um, Baby boomers are looking to get out in the next 3 to 5, maybe 10 years.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And that's a great thing. You mentioned a couple of times that if you need to prepare, right? That before you attend a meeting, you already are researching the people that are coming there. Talk to us a bit about how you do it and why you do it.
So I did this a few weeks ago. A colleague of mine invited me to a rather large networking event,
Mhm.
and I said, "Boy, I sure would like to meet, know who's coming, so I can meet a few people." And he sent me a guest list, and I filtered that list by guest title. Again, CEO, president, owner, founder, and there were about 10 people that I came up with that I wanted introductions to before I went to the event. So my friend sent very casual email. Hey Joe, Jim's coming to the event next Wednesday. He'd really like to meet you. Please connect here via email and maybe figure out how you can meet at the event. So there's no much less guesswork, right?
Yes, yes.
So we talked before the event. Hey, I'll see you there. If I didn't connect before the event, I looked for them when I got there, and I connected with most of those 10 people at the event. And the ones that I didn't see at the event, I have followed up and I said, sorry that we didn't connect at the event. Let's grab a 30-minute Zoom call or something like that.
Right, right. So I actually like the picture that you're painting because it starts prior to the event. You know, you have to do your homework, you have to do your research, you have to ask for an introduction. If not prior to the event, then on the event. On the event, you have to really make sure that you're the go-giver, that you're listening, that you can add value by, helping them for often connections. Again, that's why your network is so valuable. And then you do the follow up where get to a personalized longer meeting. You follow up on LinkedIn. You put them in your CRM system and your contact details, and then you stay relevant by seeing you on LinkedIn or whatever platform. Very often it's LinkedIn, let's be honest. And you put them on the mailing list and you invite them for next networking events. I really love that. So give me the final question. 2 golden tips that we need to be aware of. 2 golden tips with respect to networking. Can be in any direction, but what are you that you feel like, gosh, I wish I knew that earlier?
Okay, I've got two of them.
Good.
One would be that networking and relationship building is a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay.
This takes what you just described perfectly, by the way. It takes a while.
Yes.
This is not a short sales cycle. It takes a long time. You're planting the seeds, you're watering the vegetable, and then you're harvesting. It is a marathon, not a sprint. Um, the other one I would say is that relationship building is not a spectator sport.
Mm.
So when you go to the networking event, and you've seen people like this, go to the networking event and there are two people on the side talking to each other. They work at the same company. They go to the event together. They're talking to each other. They don't talk to anyone else. That's being a spectator.
I love that.
Relationship building is not a spectator sport. You've
Yes.
got to be involved. You got to break away from your comfort zone sometimes.
Mm.
Go up to people and say, and start a conversation. Again, not about the weather or the traffic, but it's something as simple as, hey, what brought you here today?
Right. Yes.
Very simple.
Yes. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. All right, Jim, I think that's amazing. Don't be a spectator, and really remember, it takes a long time. It takes cultivating. It takes watering, like you said. Comparing it to your growing
Vegetable garden.
vegetable garden.
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, I really love that. And I think this might be the true final question, but you're quite successful with it. Talk to me a bit, the final question, talk to me a bit why this networking is so worth it. I know you're great at converting people, uh,
Because there's nothing better than the in-person activity and in-person relationship and connections. Nothing better than making these in-person connections. Um, I think, doing virtual networking is great because it's very efficient
Yes.
time-wise.
Yes.
I think LinkedIn engagement is very important also, but there's nothing takes the place of in-person connecting with people,
Right.
being there, shaking a hand, letting them see your facial expressions, your body expressions, even, touching someone on the shoulder, little things like that, that really help build those relationships. So nothing takes the place of in-person interaction.
Love that. All right. Well, I think with that, we're gonna call it a day today. There we go. Thank you so much, Jim, for being here, and absolute pleasure to hear all that you do in the networking space. And thank you for joining us today on the Be the CEO of Your Life live show. We specialize in helping agency owners get more clients by improving their current client acquisition channels, introducing new ones, and setting up your operations for growth. If you're an agency owner and you're looking to increase your revenue and get more clients, let's connect. See you next time, same place, same venue. Jim, thank you so much for being here.
And thank you for the value that you bring to your audience. It's really magnificent.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.